The moment I first saw the Nile River, I knew I would never forget it. What looked like a thin blue line on maps was, in reality, like a living vein cutting through the desert. After hours of driving through endless sand, that sudden stretch of green felt almost unreal, as if it didn't belong to this world. Before coming to Egypt, I used to think about pyramids, pharaohs, and mummies. But once I arrived, I understood that Egypt was not just about stones. It was about time itself. The day I landed in Cairo, the air was heavy with heat, not the kind of summer warmth you enjoy, but a dense heat that clings to your skin and slows your breathing. The first thing I heard when I stepped outside the airport was the sound of car horns, traffic, noise, shouting voices everywhere. Yet even in that chaos, there was a strange rhythm. It didn't feel disorganized. It felt alive. On the way to the hotel, the taxi driver tried to speak with me. His English was limited, and my Arabic was even worse. But when he pointed at the Nile, his eyes lit up. Life, he said. And in that single word, I realized that to understand this country, I first had to understand that river. The next day, I went to Giza. The pyramids I had seen in photographs since childhood were suddenly standing right in front of me. As I stood before the Great Pyramid, I felt an unexpected silence inside myself. Tourists surrounded me. Guides were calling out. Camels moved slowly across the sand. Yet I felt detached from all the noise. I looked at the stones. Each one weighed tons. How had people 4,500 years ago managed to place them so precisely? Books try to answer that question. But when you stand there, it stops being a technical matter. When I touched the stone, I felt as if someone from thousands of years ago had left a message for me. We were here. As the guide spoke about the pharaohs, my eyes kept drifting toward the horizon. The desert stretched endlessly. Perhaps that was the true power of Egypt, the feeling of infinity. Those geometric giants rising from the sand were humanity's bold attempt to challenge nature. The pharaohs declared themselves gods. They wanted immortality, and in a strange way they achieved it. We still speak their names: Khufu, Khafre, Menkaure. Their tombs are still standing. Later that afternoon, I stood before the Sphinx. Its expression has always unsettled me. It is neither smiling nor angry. It looks like something that has seen everything and chosen to remain silent. Maybe after witnessing the rise and fall of empires for thousands of years, silence becomes wisdom. Egypt is not only the land of ancient glory, it is also the land of countless collapses. The pharaohs vanished, the Persians came and went, then the Greeks, the Romans, the Arabs, the Ottomans, the British, but the Nile kept flowing. One day I visited the Egyptian Museum in Cairo and saw Tutankhamun's golden mask. It was far more powerful than any photograph. That mask was not just decoration, it was belief cast in gold. The ancient Egyptians believed that death was not an end, but a transition. That is why they built tombs like palaces. They placed food, jewelry, and servant figures inside. For them, death was simply another beginning. One evening, I walked along the Nile at sunset. The sky turned shades of orange and deep red. Fishing boats moved slowly across the water. I thought to myself that perhaps this exact scene had unfolded thousands of years ago. Maybe a pharaoh once stood in the same place, watching the same sun sink below the horizon. History is often presented as frozen information in books, but in Egypt it feels alive. Time does not move in a straight line there. It feels layered, intertwined. When I traveled to Luxor, the feeling deepened. Walking between the massive columns of Karnak Temple, I felt smaller than ever. The columns were so tall that when I lifted my head, I could barely see the sky. The carvings on the walls told stories of wars, victories, and offerings to the gods. Every stone carried a narrative. The ancient Egyptians did not carve for decoration. They carved for permanence. Hieroglyphs were their signatures against time. Descending into one of the tombs in the Valley of the Kings, I felt a quiet chill. We walked down a narrow corridor covered in vibrant paintings. Even after thousands of years, the colors remained alive. The guide explained that the tomb's owner believed he would be reborn alongside the sun god in the afterlife. In that moment, I realized something simple yet profound. Humanity has never changed. We are all searching for meaning. Some look for it in science, some in art, some in faith. The ancient Egyptians found it in eternity. One night I lay beneath the desert sky and looked at the stars. Far from the city lights, the Milky Way was visible in stunning clarity. I remembered the theories suggesting that the pyramids were aligned with the stars. Perhaps the pharaohs truly believed they could ascend to the heavens. Perhaps those monumental structures were stairways for the soul. The desert's silence forces you to think. There is no traffic, no notifications, no noise, only the wind and your heartbeat. Throughout my days in Egypt, I noticed the country's contradictions. Ancient temples stand beside modern apartment buildings. donkey carts share the streets with luxury cars. The scent of spices fills crowded markets while smartphones glow in people's hands. Yet these contrasts do not weaken Egypt, they define it. Egypt does not live only in the past, it breathes in the present. The laughter of children, the call to prayer, the bargaining voices in bazaars. Together they create a strange but powerful melody. When I boarded the plane to leave, I looked down from the window. The Nile appeared as a thin ribbon of light cutting through the darkness. A quiet sadness settled inside me. Egypt had not only taught me about history, it had taught me about time. No matter how powerful a ruler may be, no matter how massive the monuments, everything eventually fades. The pharaohs sought immortality, but perhaps true immortality lies not in stone, but in the stories we continue to tell. Now, when I look back, I understand that seeing Egypt is like witnessing the childhood of humanity. It is seeing the first scripts, the first great states, the first monumental tombs. But it is also confronting your own smallness. Standing before the pyramids, I felt insignificant in the face of time, yet strangely connected to it, as if I too were a small part of that endless story. Perhaps one day I will return. Perhaps I will walk again along the Nile and watch the sun melt into the water. But I know this: once Egypt enters your soul, it never truly leaves, because it is not just a country. It is a bridge between past and present. And once you cross that bridge, you can never see the world in quite the same way again.